I've been an AMD, oh my god, my throat. I've been an AMD user ever since I had my first gaming desktop. I had an RX 580 when I first got my PC. I've had AMD every upgrade. I went from 580 to 5500 XT to 5700 XT, and then now I'm at 6800. I even have a 6600 XT somewhere in the back over there. It's backup forever whenever I want to make a second PC. But apparently AMD hates their customers. News just came out that AMD is seemingly stopping driver updates for the Ryzen Z1 Extreme processor. So basically they're going to stop driver updates for Ryzen Z1 Extreme. And that SoC came out in like 2023. So it's not even an old architecture, an old CPU, an old APU at all. It came out literally 3 years ago. It was mainly for handheld PCs, for handheld gaming PCs. They were decent. They were pretty good. Z1 and Z1 Extreme were really nice. One of the biggest ones that used it were Lenovo Legion. And that's actually where this news comes from. Asus also used it in their ROG Ally. But apparently they're stopping updates for the Z1 Extreme. So now, if you're on Windows and you have a Z1 Extreme handheld gaming PC, you're just kind of out of luck from now on. And that's really stupid. It's really dumb. This APU is not even that old, and it's still really powerful for a handheld gaming PC. I don't know what's going on, because this comes in after, I think it was like either 1 month or 2 months ago, where they said they were going to stop driver support. Well, they said they were going to stop driver support and put in a legacy branch for RDNA 1 and RDNA 2, which is the RX 5000 and RX 6000 series. And then they kind of walked it back as criticism came out and outcry came out. And they're like, oh no, it's actually in maintenance mode. It's still going to get updates, but it's not going to be like the newest, latest, greatest updates. I don't know what's going on with AMD right now. This is a very weird year. It's getting really bad, and they're kind of like destroying their reputation right now. I don't know what their goal is. Well, their goal is to obviously get you to buy the newest RDNA 4 or the newest SoCs and basically force you into it, which I don't like. I don't like at all. It's gotten really bad. FSR 4 is not available on RX 6000 or 7000, even though they can run them. People have modded it in, and they can indeed run FSR 4, no matter how much they try and say that they can't. Now we got this, where handheld gaming PCs are stopping updates after 2.5 years. Like, what are we doing, AMD? It's crazy to me because the most anti-consumer GPU company I know, NVIDIA, still supports DLSS 4 and some driver updates with RTX 20 series cards. 20 series cards, and they can run DLSS 4 super resolution. Like, maybe not frame generation, sure, whatever, but they can still support DLSS 4 in some capacity. AMD, they just kind of don't care. They don't even try. FSR 4 is literally available on RDNA in general, and they made a model for it, and then they accidentally let it leak onto their open GPU, but then it became open source, and then everybody took it. So whatever, it's too late. They tried to get rid of it, but it's the cat's out the bag now. So we know that FSR 4 can run on RX 5000, RX 6000, RX 7000. Maybe not as great as RDNA 4, maybe not as great as the 9070 XT, but it still runs and it still works. It still gives you the massive image quality boost from FSR 3, and they just won't release it. They won't talk about it. Like Hardware Unboxed asked about FSR 4 Int 8, which is the one that works with 6000, 7000, and 5000. And they were just like, yeah, we got nothing to comment about on that. Like, what? Dude, this makes it really scary for a lot of people that are going to be potentially buying AMD cards because they are cheaper than NVIDIA cards. Well, usually just Windows users. For Linux, it's a completely different story, and I'll get on that later. It seems like AMD's actively trying to make people hate AMD. so they will switch to something like Intel or Nvidia. Like, I don't know what the goal is. It's starting to look really, really weird. And on the Linux side, we got older GPUs still getting support for on Linux because of Mesa, because of open source drivers. We got GCN 1.0 and 1.1 GPUs still getting driver updates in 2026. Like, everything that has to do with AMD on Linux is quite literally a paradise compared to Windows. And that's solely because the driver situation on on Linux and Windows are completely different. See, for anyone that doesn't know, anybody that doesn't really know about Linux, AMD has their own proprietary drivers on Windows. So it's not open source. You get the drivers from them, and they get to choose whether your GPU gets to die or not today, where they decide to take it out back and treat them like old Yeller. For Linux, the drivers are open source, so the community builds them. Other companies build them aside from AMD, just AMD themselves. Companies like Valve, Steam, they work on the AMD drivers on Linux. Other community members work on Linux. Mesa, the driver stack, if I remember, is called Mesa, and then AMD GPU as the actual driver name. The situation's a lot better on there because your GPU, probably no matter how old it is still going to get updates, and it's still going to get feature updates too, depending. We have the RX 5700 XT doing ray tracing on Linux because they were able to emulate ray tracing on there. That's insane. That's like actually insane. And it's playable. You can play Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which requires ray tracing. Like, you cannot launch it at all if your card cannot support ray tracing. And I believe it's the same with Doom: The Dark Ages, because that also is like that is built with ray tracing in mind. You can run them with the 5700 XT that doesn't have native support for ray tracing on Linux. That's insane. That's really insane. I think like Vega 64 can do that too. Radeon 7. There was a thing back then for when Alan Wake 2 came out, where there was like certain mesh shaders that were required that weren't supported on things like the GTX 10 series and anything that's like an RX 5700 XT and below. But the AMD GPU drivers had an update where they emulate those mesh shaders, and 5700 XT was able to run a lot smoother than it does on Windows, because on Windows it's an absolute travesty. It's bad. It's literally unplayable. On Linux, it's playable. It's decent. It's a much smoother experience. It runs a hell of a lot better than on Windows, that's for sure. I really don't know if this is like some type of plot for people on AMD to switch to Linux, and if that's the case, I mean, hey, I'll take it. Like, that's more people on Linux, because SteamOS does support Lenovo Legion. They have drivers for it. SteamOS does, and so does other Linux handheld operating systems like CachyOS, Bazzite, all them. They support the CPUs, the SoCs in those machines, and they even run better than they do on Windows. So now at this point, if you have a ROG Ally X or a Lenovo Legion Go with a Z1 Extreme, you might as well switch on over to Bazzite, or you switch on over to SteamOS, because you're not getting any more driver updates, and you probably never will again. Well, you're probably going to get maintenance updates, but that's about it. You're not going to get like new features or anything, or new performance updates or anything like that, but you will get them on Linux most likely, because they're always working on AMD GPUs. Nvidia, it's a different story, but there's no like Nvidia handheld gaming PCs that have come out as of recent. It's basically been AMD or Intel, and I don't know what's going on the Intel side when it comes to Linux. I'm not the person to ask for that, but I do know what's happening with AMD, and it's such a different world. It's literally such a different world. At this point, if I do get a handheld PC, I'm just gonna put Bazzite on it. Just gonna put Bazzite on it, because now at this point, if I get one, now I'm gonna be scared. I'm like, how down the line this thing's not going to get any more support because AMD just felt like it. And that's a horrible thought to have. That is horrible buyer anxiety that AMD has now instilled upon people. It's bad. The Windows situation in general is just bad. I really don't know. Are they trying to like sabotage Windows reputation? Is this what's going on? If so, I mean, the reputation's already been bad. Everybody knows it's just it's serviceable, but it ain't great. We only use it because most of the software is only on Windows, so we kind of need it. 2.5 years of support, and then they're like, okay, yeah, you're done. Good luck. If something breaks with new games or new software, we can't help you. What sense does that make? Like I said before, I recommend that you all switch to Linux for all who have a handheld PC with AMD in it, because apparently they're just gonna take away your support. So just because they want to. Yeah, SteamOS, Bazzite, CashieOS handheld, they're your friends. I definitely recommend looking up videos and, you know, getting ready. Anyways, I just wanted to rant real quick because I'm kind of getting tired of every single bad news about AMD coming out. I've stayed on my RX 6800 ever since it came out, because, you know, it's worked for me. It has 16 gigabytes of VRAM and it still runs really well, and it doesn't have great ray tracing performance, but I don't really care about ray tracing, so whatever. But then when I found out that I was being put in maintenance mode after I don't know how many years of the drivers just breaking on me or just being absolute dog shit, it really did piss me off. It pissed me off bad. Like, what do you mean after all this time of like things breaking, my drivers crashing whenever I tab out of a game just to click on Discord, and like going on VR chat to turn on a video only for it to crash because it can't handle whatever SDK they're using on VR chat. And then once that fixed, another issue comes up because there's somehow, for some reason, HEVC for VR streaming doesn't work now, and then that fixed, and all of a sudden H.264 doesn't work. It's bad. It's gotten on my nerves. It's been horrible, and I'm really sad that AMD is continuing to not care about their consumers, about their customers. And I understand it. I get it. You know, capitalism. I don't care about how you actually feel. I just need you to buy my product. And if you want your PC to work, you'll buy my newer product, which has newer features, better stability, and all that. Whatever, dude. It's so annoying. AMD, you are not big enough to be doing this. Nvidia, whatever. That they have 70% market share. They'll do it, and then, you know, people will buy it anyway. AMD, you ain't got no room for that. You really don't. You can't be acting like this. You are not as big as Nvidia. Please stop acting like it. You can't be doing this. Anyways, I'm getting off. The more I'm talking about it, the more this is pissing me off. Goodbye.